5:30, we'll call the meeting of the Board of Public Works for June 6, 2022 to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the May 19th, 2022 Board of Public Works meeting. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Fire to approve, second by Mr. Fisher. Any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that motion carries. Citizen comments. The only citizen here is the mayor. Do you have any comments, Madam Mayor? None. So we'll move on to item 4, construction update presented by Chris Hawley, Street Superintendent, and Tom Turchi, City Engineer.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to highlight a few things, notable accomplishments since we last met. As you know, we were just getting started a couple weeks ago, but things are progressing rather nicely. The West McMillan Culvert Replacement Project is now scheduled to start about tentatively for July 11th. If you remember, this is a 50-50 bridge aid project in Marathon County. We'll be replacing the corrugated metal pipes with reinforced concrete pipe just west of Lincoln Avenue. And the city will be doing the concrete end walls, asphalt paving, and final restorations for this project. The Apple Overlay project between Daggy and Becker began last week, and half of the road is already complete with concrete repairs, and they just started today on the other half, so that's progressing rather nicely. Grant, Peach to Cedar, that one we started first. All of the sanitary repairs are completed. Water main replacement is completed, and the crew is working on getting the road rebuilt for asphalt. As you guys can remember, gas main is going to be on several of these projects, if not all of them. After we're done getting the road ready for rebuilt, the gas company will come in there and replace the main and the gas laterals out there too. So moving just to the south of the Grant Street project is another Franklin project between Peach and Cedar. All the sanitary repairs there are completed also. Well, the water main replacement should be done this week, and the crew that's on Grant right now will be moving up to Franklin to start to rebuild that stretch of road. Arlington between Columbus and Lincoln, sanitary repairs started last week. We're working on the deepest section right now and hoping to be done with that section by the end of the week. And that's about 14 feet deep, so that's it's pretty deep for a sanitary construction project. From there, we'll get out of that section and we'll get into more typical type sanitary depths around the 10 to 11 feet depth. That should go a little bit quicker. And then the water department is scheduled to come in early July to start their pipe bursting project on Arlington. After they get done, then we'll work with the water department to start all the sanitary and water lateral replacements at the same time. Dairy Fest wrapped up for the year. It takes a lot of coordination for traffic control, and we started to prepare for Hub City Days already. We have a meeting on that tomorrow to prepare for Hub City Days. The Dairy Fest parade takes a lot of coordination, not only with the street division, but we work well with Mackey, Scott and Kaylee over at Mackey, Justin's crew, Ben and Nikki from Park and Recs, and police and fire department are all heavily involved during this process. So it's a big project. We close down the roads from basically Veterans Parkway down to 14th and all the way out to the fairgrounds. So as you can imagine, the amount of traffic control that's put into that process. Hub City Days isn't quite that big, but it's growing. I think last year we closed down Hub City Days. We closed it from Veterans Parkway all the way down to 9th, but we had detoured the traffic on 14th, so that's going to take quite a bit of traffic control also to get prepared for that. And that's usually the end of July. Hub City Days is another fun festivity for the city. Weed ordinance violations. We started logging those today. Letters will probably be going out tomorrow to let the property owners that they're not in compliance. They'll have the rest of the week and the weekend to get in compliance with the weed ordinance. I want to give a shout out to Tom and his staff, David Bueller. He's really automated that process for us. So basically, if you call into our office and give an address for a weed ordinance violation, that automatically gets entered into the system, gets pushed out to our iPad, and from there, once a week or once every 3 days, we can look at the iPad and say, hey, we got 4 weed ordinance violations that we need to go check up on them, push it back to the office, and notifications get sent. To kind of give you an idea on how many properties we've done in the past, I think last year we did approximately about 170 weed ordinance violation letters sent out, and we had to go back and mow about 10% of those. So once the letters get out, most of the landowners become compliant. The issues we usually have with are the vacant properties and the ones that are for sale. So, and they're usually repeat offenders. And once we go out and mow them, then they get assessed for them. And if they don't pay them, then they go on their property taxes. So that's all I have for an update today. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Chris? Tom, you have anything to add?
Yeah, we're working on 17th Street. That project's going pretty good. They've been on it. The first phase, which is between Peach and Vine, they started on April 25th. We're looking at finishing up grading here in the next day or two with and gravel placement. And they want to start placing some curb and gutter this week. So things are moving along pretty good with that project. The due date on the phase 1 is July 7th. If they get done sooner and that gets open to traffic, they'll be moving to phase 2, which is the other half of the project. So hopefully things continue moving along like they are. Chris hit on a lot of the other projects we've been working on. Water utility is doing lead line replacements. They're doing quite a few patches over on Arlington Avenue from Columbus to Oak. And then they're doing 19 services on McGee Street from Oak Avenue to 7th Street. And so if you want to see what, quite a few holes in that street coming up. So just trying to keep you informed of those. If there's any questions, answer those here.
Any questions for Tom? Okay, there's no action on that item, so we'll move on to item number 5. Awarding a bid for a replacement of the 2nd Street Community Center boiler, presented by Justin Casperson, Director of Parks and Recreation.
All right, good evening. The bids were opened on May 24th for the replacement of the existing boiler at the 2nd Street Community Center. The boiler is original to the building, dates back to the 1960s. The project was originally in the CIP, the 2022 to 2026 plan. It was advanced up because of the ARPA funds. The budget amount we had for the project was $85,000. We did receive 4 bids. The low bid was Tweet and Garrett at $99,700. There's some additional costs that aren't quite into the bid, and that's the electrical needs for the upgrades and the changeovers. We estimate that at about $8,500. So the total project's $108,200. The staff is recommending funding for the $23,200 difference from ARPA funds. So we're making a recommendation to approve the low bid from Tweet Garrett of $99,700, as well as a recommendation to cover the shortfall of $23,200 from the ARPA funds left over. One thing of note on the bottom of my memo, or actually not my memo, Dan's memo, is the unallocated fund balance for ARPA funds is now $156,132. So still a healthy reserve.
Right? Okay. Second by Mr. Fisher. Is there any comments or questions, Mike?
The units do work together, yes, but I mean, in the basement? Okay. Okay. The airflow is stronger in that Drendel room than the other rooms. I think it just pushes a lot more air and it feels cooler. We have got that comment made to us a few times. Our HVAC professional says there's not much he can do with it, so.
Justin, how much more efficient will the new boiler be? Was I going to say?
I would anticipate significantly more efficient based on the 1960s technology to today's technology. And obviously there's quite a lead time with this project. I don't know how much farther in advance. Mike, in your field, have you done any work recently with boilers and know how far in advance? Lead time, any idea? No, so we're hoping it's done before winter, but the reality is that we might be done next year, just because there's so much of a lead time with these.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, we have a motion to recommend approval of the low bid to Wheat Garot Mechanical Incorporated in the amount of $99,700 and authorize execution of a contract, and also to recommend that the funding shortfall of $23,200 be funded using ARPA funds. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Item number 6 is approval of the final assessments for 2021 construction projects presented by Tom Turchi.
All right, these are the final three pieces of the puzzle from last year that have to be approved. Cedar Avenue, 6th Street to A Street, and A Street, Cedar Avenue to Central Avenue. Basically, the asphalt paving and pulverizing was originally estimated at $13.54. The final was $12.31, approximately 10% less. On the A Street project, we added driveways during that project because some of the curb and gutter was out on the south side and the north side, or east and west sides on Cedar Avenue, and that we estimated at the process, so that stayed the same. We did replace laterals on this project and curb boxes and water stops. All that came in approximately 10% less. On the Daniels addition, the only items that were assessed were there were 4 properties that had driveway entrances to the new, or that had adjacent properties to the new street opening. We assessed only driveway aprons and sidewalk, and those prices are approximately 10% less than what was estimated. And the memo with that, I would recommend approval of the final assessments for 31, 22, 39 Millen Place with ditching, Cedar Avenue, 6th Street to A Street, Cedar Avenue to Central Avenue, and then Daniels Addition street opening. And they all came in either on target or less than what was estimated.
A motion from Mike and a second from Mike Fire. Any comments or questions? Mike?
Well, we've already opened bids for our asphalt contracts, and it was approximately 18 to 20% higher than last year. And with this year's estimated special assessments, those calculations did include that actual bid price. So that is in the calculation for this year's work, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, the motion is to recommend the final assessments as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No one is opposed. That motion carries. Item number 7 is approval of the scope of work change regarding pedestrian and bicycle accommodations for Lincoln Avenue from 5th Street to Adler Road, again presented by Tom Turchi.
All right, the city of Marshfield received a STP urban grant from the Wisconsin Department of Transportation for the reconstruction of Lincoln Avenue from 5th Street to Adler Road. This grant provides 80% federal funding with a 20% local share. The scope of the original grant application included conversion of the ditch street to a curb and gutter section with new sidewalk on both sides of the street. Early in the design process, a scope change was made to change the sidewalk along the west side of the project to a 10-foot wide asphalt trail. The primary reason for this change was that there were 3 lots in this new city subdivision west of Lincoln that back up to Lincoln Avenue, which would have sidewalk to maintain in their backyard. We do have this situation in a few other locations in the city, and it is convenient for those property owners to maintain that sidewalk along their back property line. By converting the sidewalk to trail, the city would take the maintenance responsibility rather than the property owner. Due to the presence of a large transmission line along the west side of Lincoln Avenue, additional right-of-way is required to construct this trail. Wisconsin Act 59, adopted in 2017, prohibits the use of eminent domain to acquire land for recreational trails or bikeways. Historically, the city has rarely used eminent domain to acquire property. However, this law change, a municipality cannot force the acquisition without a willing seller. There is one property owner along the west side of Lincoln Avenue that is not interested in selling their land for the trail. Such as the scope for this work, we will need to change it. There are several items or options that can be considered. The first would be to install sidewalk along the entire west side of the project as originally planned. The narrower sidewalk would fit entirely within the existing right-of-way, so no new right-of-way would be acquired. The sidewalk is also slightly less expensive than the trail, about $3,500 in savings for the local share. Option 2 is no sidewalk along the west side of Lincoln Avenue. This would result in a project savings of about $33,000 and a local share savings of about $6,600. And then option 3 is some combination of a 10-foot wide asphalt trail and a 5-foot sidewalk. The trail would have to end at a logical location so that maintenance staff could still utilize the trail. Staff is recommending option 1, sidewalk along the entire length of the project as originally planned. Therefore, the recommendation is to approve sidewalk installation along the west side of Lincoln Avenue from Fifth Street to Adler Road, rather than the trail due to the inability to acquire the right-of-way needed for this trail. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Tom? We talked about.
It doesn't want to all that. I think we go to the reason why we won't.
Because then you have to find some way to get that trail onto the roadway so that it kind of terminates. Otherwise, it's just kind of a dead end, more or less. Plus, when we're plowing, we're trying to figure out how to get on and off the trails with the plows. So, yes.
Like you do when you have
You could, I suppose. We'd have to figure out how that would work at this point. We did, with this original, with the original project going to the trail, we did a process through the Board of Public Works and the Common Council to dedicate some additional right-of-way for the city-owned parcels along there. That has not been recorded because of the fact that we were not sure we would be able to get the additional right-of-way from this property owner. And so that deed is still sitting there. But we kind of just, we have a couple other locations in the city that are like this where we do have sidewalk along the backside. We may never get the opportunity to get that trail or finish that trail through there. So does it pay to just go half a block or 3/4 of the block and then stop? I'm not sure. That's why we kind of just recommended going sidewalk, because it continues with the sidewalk that goes all the way down to 14th Street.
Sure.
Is there any fear that those 3 lots are having sidewalks, 3 large, you fear that they won't hold you? Some people are not walking all the way around, all their snowmobile around. Couldn't be a problem.
With the lots, here's some lots that adjoin McMillan Street that are very similar to this, where they're at the end of the cul-de-sac. Most of those property owners actually blow a little line through their yard to get to that sidewalk, clean it off, instead of going around the block with it. So yeah, there's pluses and minuses to all of this.
Adam?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Similar question, but I mean, I was also surprised option 2 was not considered. What was the rationale for not
Putting any sidewalk? Well, I have had several property owners that would rather see it on that side of the street and not their side of the street. And any place where we have a collector or larger, when we do a conversion to curb and gutter, the policy has been to place sidewalk on both sides of the street to be fair to both sides.
Okay. I just have, I mean, I don't want to rehash a very long conversation as Mike implied at the last meeting, but I have a hard time with this idea of option one, so I'm just gonna be putting against it. Thank you.
Mike?
Thank you. Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel that by spending money to put this sidewalk in is actually creating a problem. I guess I would just stress that I'm in the same ballpark, and I see no logical reason to have that sidewalk there to create that problem.
Mike?
I'd like to just move number 3 and kind of read it.
That would be option 2.
Oh,
You can make that motion, we can work with that.
so number 3 is the.
No, number 2 is no's.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm,
I'll make a
right,
motion.
number 3,
I'll
yeah.
make a motion that we go to option 3 to put 10-foot wide asphalt, 5-foot wide sidewalk where we can't get the problem. Will be it.
There's a second to that motion.
Mike,
you
Brian had a
seconding it?
question. No, you had a question.
Okay, I have to have a second before I can go to questions. Motion dies for lack of a second. Brian?
So I would like to do it before he would have made that motion, but there's going to be a driveway there on that last lot,
Yes,
because that last lot's going to be driveway off of, on Lincoln there.
yes.
So there could be an ending point there where the city could come off the road
Mhm.
and turn around, maybe go the other way. So there would be somewhat of an ending point if the driveway is far enough up to where that property owner owns.
Uh, Depending on how that is developed, it may be on the north side of the lot, so it might be a situation where we actually want to bring it almost all the way up to their north or southern property line. We might end up creating some type of access point at that point, which would just be a design change at this point. We'd have to figure something out.
With 4th Street down there, I thought that the driveway would be closer on the other side so that it wasn't gonna, so they weren't gonna pull out and be across. I thought it was the other way. Maybe I missed that.
Well, with that being the only parcel that would have access off of that side other than the farm and the church, we didn't want to limit where they would put their driveways because that lot does taper as it goes to the north and it gets a little narrower, so it provides, it may provide, and we don't know who's going to build or how they're going to build on that lot, but that would provide for additional yard space if they were building it the other direction. For
Okay.
drive, maybe the garage being to the south or to the north.
Okay.
Adam?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to go back to a question that was asked earlier. I mean, with either option 1 or 3 with a sidewalk, what does this do to the lots and the sell marketability of the lot to sell? Maybe that's unfair, but I'm just questioning, what's the likelihood we're going to sell them?
I think they will sell them.
I think they'll sell,
Even though there's
but,
a sidewalk in the back.
yeah, I think that the people will go into it knowing that they have the sidewalk in the back is the main difference. And I'm not a real estate person or anything like that. I
Okay, but
think
here's the thing about that. If I'm looking at a lot and I have a sidewalk on the back end of my property, there's no way I'm gonna go back there and take care of that sidewalk myself. So the only way I'm gonna buy it is if I know the city's gonna plow it for me or do snow removal for me, and I'm sure Chris doesn't wanna do that. So I have a lot of concerns with the sidewalk issue. So I'm gonna vote on anything other than option 2.
I guess my response to that would be the people up on whose property backside onto McMillan. Those are some nice houses that were built there, and when those people purchased those properties, they knew that that was a condition. Go ahead.
Good point, and that's a fair point, but at the same time, the city's invested money in this project, and I want to make sure that these lots are sold. I mean, I was hopeful we would have already sold it by now. So the fact that we're still sitting on lots that have not sold, and now we're adding sidewalk to the back end of the property line. Yeah, I'm not gonna say someone's not gonna take it, and you make a fair point, but there's a lot of ifs here.
You know, and with the sale of property, in the future, it could be that maybe the person on the corner of that doesn't want to sell their property, there, you could have a willing seller in the future that would like to have that continued through. So that having that trail up to like Fourth Street area, as Mike suggested, could almost promote that additional piece at some point if somebody were a willing seller in the future. You could say kind of the same thing about some of the properties on the east side. Some of them, you know, are side lots to the parcel or not the front. They will have to deal with the sidewalk on their side versus not having it in front of their homes. It's, you know, and for sale wise, I think they'll still sell the lots either way. Because we are short of lots in this city.
I guess my position on this is that the sidewalk going through there, I think, is necessary to provide the continuity between the sidewalk that extends to the south of there, south of Fifth Street, as well, and connecting that to the sidewalk on, or actually it's a trail on Adler Road. But at least there's something that will be alongside that whole length of that section of the roadway on the west side. Chris?
Just to give you an idea of sidewalk, snow and ice removal ordinance violations, I've been doing it for about 6 years now. Kind of been in charge of it. Cody's in charge of it now, but in the, going through the process, we've never had a snow and ice removal violation up on McMillan, which would be east of Adams, those yards that abut back to McMillan. And several of those yards are actually fenced in. I don't know how they get back there to remove the snow, but we've never had a violation up on that stretch, just for point of clarification.
Another question.
Sure. If I,
Okay, say we don't sell the lot. They don't go. They gonna follow. Becomes our.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I don't want us to just not put sidewalk in. As soon as you give that long of a stretch of sidewalk, next time, like at the fairground, didn't want to come on once. Oh, wait a minute, you didn't put them on link. Now you started the rule. You either do a trail or a sidewalk.
Okay. Alderman Fire is correct. We have several miles of city-owned property that butts sidewalk that we are in charge of snow and ice removal on.
okay, I'll entertain a motion or
My motion is private. I'll make a motion that I will follow it.
I would second that, but I don't think I can because I'm the chairperson. Can I?
My motion.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to go back to my original. We put trail it up to that lot that won't work with us, and then we think that his section.
And I'll second that.
I wasn't aware that I had it.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on that? Because I would agree with that as long as we extend the sidewalk with concrete sidewalk from the end of the trailhead to Fifth Street. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And anyone opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries 3-2. I don't think that it just requires a minimum. And that brings us to item number 8, recommended items for future agenda. Anyone? Seeing none, a motion to adjourn. Okay, we have a motion from Mike O'Reilly and a second from Mike Fire, I think, for adjourn.